Earlier this month, GameSpot had the opportunity to sit down and play around 8 hours of Anthem. We started at the very beginning, played through the first story missions, messed around in free play, and wrapped the session with a high-level stronghold mission. Think Strikes from Destiny. While there's still a lot we don't know about Anthem, we did have the chance to chat with lead producer Ben Irving to talk about Anthem's progression, loot, and difficulty. He even hinted at what to expect from the endgame.
Yeah, so the core of the game is you're a pilot. The pilot enters the javelin, and so the pilot is a thing that has the levels in it. And so as you play the game, you level from 1 through to 30 is kind of the main. That gets you through the bulk of the crit path, and then you'll do some other activities to kind of get to level 30. So on that journey, you get loot. So you play missions and loot drops and you pick it up, and when you go back to Fort Tarsus, you go to the Forge and you can discover what that loot was and you can equip it. The loot that drops is based off your pilot level. So as you get higher in pilot level, you'll get a higher loot. And so in the game right now, it's called gear score. So if you're pilot level 5, then you get like level 5 gear. So that's kind of the basics of the loot system. Then beyond that, there's rarities. So much like many RPG games, we have a color system that goes from uncommon to legendary for us, that goes through, white, green, blue, purple, orange, yellow, I think is our progression. And then as you're playing the game, it's like, well, how do I get higher rarity gear? And so by doing by setting the difficulty to a higher level increases your chance of getting more rare gear, and then doing harder content increases your chance. So for example, if you play a stronghold on hard, you have a much higher chance of getting rare loot than if you were to go out in free play on easy, that's like both the easier content and the easy difficulty, then you would have a lower chance. Now you can get loot anywhere, but if you're all out there to be like, I want to become the most powerful person in the world, you'll find that efficiency mark of like difficulty and challenging content, and you want to do harder stuff to get those better rewards.
Because drops are dictated by pilot level and not gear score, this means that if you decide to swap javelins, it won't take long for you to trick it out with decent gear. Once you hit pilot level 30, you unlock 3 new difficulty levels. This is when things get a bit harder and you'll start getting some very rare loot.
So at level 30, the 3 new difficulties open. That's Grandmaster 1, 2, and 3. And that again will increase the loot drop chance. So it kind of goes, like I said, uncommon, common, rare, epic, masterwork, legendary. So you'll get to a point where you really want those masterworks and legendaries. That's where like the fun properties come in that change how you play, that change your builds, that a weak point strike, it'll reload, you get a free charge. Things like that totally change how you play, kind of create builds and rotations and stuff like that. So when you really want lots of them, that's when you'll start pushing Grandmaster 1, 2, and 3. And you'll need to have at least a set of epics, probably some masterworks to go in there, again, depending on skill level and a bunch of things. But for those kind of high-end players, we want this almost infinite chase, right? That you can keep pushing harder difficulties for kind of bragging rights amongst your friends to try and get that better gear. And then over time, we'll see how that goes, and we might add more difficulties beyond that.
It sounds like difficulty will be a significant part of Anthem's endgame, but Irving also shed some light on legendary contracts and how they plan to expand Anthem and its endgame in the future.
The things you do at endgame will be legendary contracts and the strongholds. And at endgame, they'll be tougher. We do believe in aspirational content. I think in other games you could call that raids. So we do have plans for aspirational content in the live service. We're not talking about that or what the details are yet. But we do recognize the idea that, hey, like you want to do something a couple of times a week with a group of friends that is hard, that really pushes yourself. And then the rest of the time you'll do all the other parts of the game to kind of get yourself ready for the next time you go into the aspirational content. And so I think there are just horizons there. Like at the start of the game, your horizon is level through to 30, complete the crit path, understand the game, unlock all the javelins, work out what builds you like. The next horizon is like the legendary contracts and strongholds and trying to get a full set of masterworks and getting the builds that have the special properties to them. And then the horizon after that will be aspirational content. So there's a little bit of time there, and we just want to kind of pace it out so that players could kind of migrate through that, progression horizons.
Anthem officially launches on February 22nd on PC, Xbox One, and PS4. A VIP demo will be available on the 25th for those who pre-ordered it, and an open demo will follow the week after. We have a lot more Anthem coverage planned, so stay tuned to GameSpot.